As the halls of Congress buzzed with anticipation on Thursday, a pivotal moment loomed for the Trump administration with a colossal legislative package affectionately dubbed the Big Beautiful Bill by President Trump himself, poised for a final vote in the House of Representatives. This high-stakes legislative push, extensively covered by major news outlets like ABC News, NBC News, and CNN, underscored the administration's relentless drive to cement its policy agenda even as opposition forces mounted a last-ditch effort to delay or derail its passage. The impending vote on this comprehensive bill, which has been a central focus of White House efforts, signifies a critical juncture for both the administration's legislative ambitions and the broader political landscape. Reports from various news desks throughout the day, including live updates from Washington, detailed the intense lobbying and parliamentary maneuvering preceding the vote. The bill, whose precise contents remain a subject of fervent debate, is widely understood to encompass significant policy shifts aligned with the administration's platform, ranging from economic reforms to social programs. Political analysts suggest its passage would be a major victory for the president, solidifying his legislative legacy as the term progresses. However, the path to the House floor has been anything but smooth. Democratic leadership, notably Representative Hakeem Jeffries, engaged in a marathon speech that stretched for hours, a classic tactic employed by the minority to draw attention to their objections and potentially delay proceedings. This extensive address, highlighted in Thursday's reports, underscored the deep partisan chasm that defines much of the legislative process in Washington. Opponents of the bill have voiced concerns over its potential economic impacts, its long-term fiscal implications, and what they describe as a departure from established norms, arguing that such a sweeping piece of legislation demands more thorough public scrutiny and bipartisan input. The intensity of this debate reflects not just policy disagreements but fundamental ideological clashes over the role of government and the direction of the nation. Beyond the immediate legislative skirmish, the political climate surrounding such actions continues to evolve, prompting introspection and shifts in traditional allegiances. The very nature of the Trump administration's tenure has for some become a catalyst for re-evaluating long-held political identities. A recent commentary piece published by the Daily Beast, provocatively titled "Welp, Donald Trump's America Has Made Me a Conservative," exemplifies this phenomenon. While not directly detailing the bill, such pieces illustrate how the administration's policies and political style are reshaping individual political viewpoints, leading to unexpected realignments and a redefinition of what it means to be conservative or liberal in contemporary America. This broader societal recalibration forms a crucial backdrop to the specific legislative battles, indicating that the impact of these political maneuvers extends far beyond the Capitol Hill corridors. The causes behind the administration's forceful push for this megabill are multifaceted, rooted in a desire to fulfill campaign promises, stimulate specific economic sectors, and consolidate power ahead of future electoral cycles. For the administration, passing such a significant piece of legislation is not just about policy but about demonstrating effective governance and delivering on commitments to their base. The potential impacts, should the bill pass, are far-reaching. Economically, it could trigger shifts in investment, employment, and market behavior. Socially, its provisions could alter public services and individual freedoms. Politically, it would undoubtedly embolden the administration, setting a precedent for future legislative endeavors and potentially altering the balance of power in Congress. Conversely, a failure to pass the bill or its passage by a narrow margin would signal continued legislative gridlock and highlight the persistent challenges of governing in a deeply divided nation. As the final House vote approaches, all eyes remain fixed on Washington. Regardless of the immediate outcome, this legislative battle underscores the relentless pace of policymaking in the current political climate and the profound ideological divisions that continue to shape the nation's trajectory. The Big Beautiful Bill, whether it becomes law or not, will undoubtedly leave an indelible mark on the political landscape, influencing future policy debates, electoral strategies, and the ongoing evolution of American political identity. The ripples of this week's events will undoubtedly be felt for months, if not years, to come. setting the stage for future legislative showdowns and continued re-evaluation of the nation's political compass. The political landscape in Washington is buzzing with activity this week as former President Donald Trump makes waves with significant economic policy proposals while the Democratic Party continues to strategize its path forward. Amidst a backdrop of evolving global trade dynamics and domestic political realignments in early July 2025, these announcements signal potentially transformative shifts in both economic direction and campaign tactics. A key economic pronouncement came on Thursday, July 3, when Reuters reported that Donald Trump stated his intention to impose a substantial 20% tariff on exports from Vietnam. This declaration, if implemented, would mark a significant escalation in the ongoing global trade discussions and could reshape supply chains that have increasingly diversified away from China in recent years. Such a move aligns with Trump's established protectionist stance, often emphasizing domestic production and balancing trade deficits. The potential impact on industries heavily reliant on Vietnamese manufacturing, from electronics to apparel, could be profound, forcing companies to reassess their sourcing strategies and potentially leading to higher consumer prices or shifts in production locations. This proposed tariff signals a continued readiness to use economic levers as a primary tool in international relations, potentially creating ripple effects across the global economy. Concurrently, the BBC reported on Thursday that Trump has also alluded to the key items within what he describes as a big beautiful bill. While the specific details of this legislative package remain largely undisclosed in the provided news snippets, the announcement itself suggests a comprehensive agenda that could encompass a range of policy areas. Historically, big beautiful bills from Trump's past administrations have often touched upon infrastructure, tax reform, or healthcare, designed to stimulate the economy or fulfill core campaign promises. The timing of such an announcement alongside the tariff threat indicates a multifaceted approach to economic governance and a clear signaling of his policy priorities should he return to office. The lack of specifics, however, leaves room for speculation on the exact mechanisms and beneficiaries of this proposed legislation, making it a focal point for future political discourse and analysis. Meanwhile, on the Democratic side, internal discussions about effective political engagement are gaining traction. An opinion piece published by the New York Times on Thursday highlighted the success of Zoran Mamdani, suggesting that his victory was largely due to his approach of listening to constituents. This observation offers a strategic lesson for the broader Democratic Party, which has often faced criticism for being perceived as out of touch with certain segments of the electorate. The article implies that a more grassroots responsive approach, prioritizing direct engagement and understanding community needs, could be a blueprint for future campaigns. In an era where political polarization is rampant, the emphasis on genuine listening and direct communication could be a critical factor in bridging divides and mobilizing voters, providing a counter-narrative to the top-down policy pronouncements from the opposition. As the political calendar progresses, the coming months are poised to reveal the full scope of these proposed economic policies and the efficacy of evolving political strategies. The potential 20% tariff on Vietnam's exports, alongside the specifics of Trump's big beautiful bill, will undoubtedly be scrutinized for their economic implications and feasibility. Simultaneously, the Democratic Party's willingness and ability to adopt and scale approaches like Zoran Mamdani's listening strategy will be a crucial test of their electoral viability. These developments collectively underscore a period of significant strategic planning and policy posturing, setting the stage for an impactful political season ahead. It appears there might be an issue with the provided news content. The article contents sections for all the listed news links from CNN, NBC News, The New York Times, and Vox.com uniformly display a Google cookie consent page rather than the actual news articles themselves. As a result, I do not have access to the specific details, quotes, data, or analytical content from the original news reports about the Trump policy bill or the big beautiful bill that is awaiting a House vote. Without the actual article text, it is impossible to fulfill the requirements of providing a comprehensive analysis of causes and impacts, including relevant quotes and data, or discussing future developments in a natural and fluent journalistic style. To write a professional technology news article is requested with the depth and detail required, analyzing causes and impacts, incorporating quotes and data, and discussing future developments. I would need the actual textual content of the news articles. If you can provide the full text of these articles, I would be happy to organize them into the comprehensive and engaging piece you're looking for. In a surprising display of resilience, the U.S. labor market defied prevailing uncertainties and global trade tensions in June, delivering a stronger than expected jobs report that signals continued economic vigor. The latest figures released on Thursday reveal the addition of a robust 147,000 jobs last month. A performance that surpassed many analysts' projections and saw the unemployment rate tick down to a healthy 4.1%. This positive news arrives amidst a period where economic policy, particularly the impact of the Trump administration's trade strategies, has been a dominant topic of discussion and concern among economists and businesses alike. The consensus among major news outlets, including The Guardian, CNN, and PBS, highlighted the unexpected strength of the job growth. CNN reported the addition of 147,000 jobs, noting it was stronger than expected, while The Guardian underscored the achievement amid Trump trade war. PBS further emphasized that this job creation occurred despite uncertainty over economic policy, pointing to a labor market that appears to be weathering external pressures with remarkable fortitude. The Economist, in its broader coverage of the U.S. economy under Donald Trump, would likely find these figures a critical data point in evaluating the administration's overall economic legacy. The impressive job gains and falling unemployment rate suggest that the domestic economy maintains significant momentum, potentially offsetting or at least mitigating the immediate effects of international trade disputes. This defiance of expectations prompts a deeper look into the underlying factors. It could indicate that businesses are continuing to invest and expand, driven by strong consumer demand, or perhaps a lagged positive impact from previous fiscal policies. Alternatively, it might suggest that the sectors most affected by trade tariffs represent a smaller portion of the overall labor market than initially feared, or that companies are adapting to the new trade landscape more quickly than anticipated. The sustained low unemployment rate, now at 4.1%, signals a tightening labor market, which could eventually lead to upward pressure on wages. A development that would be welcomed by workers and could further fuel consumer spending. However, the continued mention of uncertainty over economic policy and the Trump trade war by various news sources cannot be overlooked. While the labor market is currently robust, these geopolitical and policy shifts introduce variables that could impact future growth. Businesses might be hesitant to make long-term investment decisions if the trade environment remains unpredictable, potentially dampening future hiring. The current job growth could be a testament to the underlying strength of the U.S. economy, but it also raises questions about how long this resilience can last if trade tensions escalate or if other policy uncertainties persist. Looking ahead, the June jobs report provides a crucial, albeit complex, snapshot of the U.S. economy. It offers a degree of reassurance regarding the health of the labor market, suggesting that the economy has considerable momentum. However, the interplay between this domestic strength and the ongoing external pressures, particularly trade policy, will be the determining factor in the trajectory of the U.S. economy for the remainder of the year and beyond. Economists will be closely watching subsequent reports for signs of whether this unexpected resilience is a sustainable trend or merely a temporary buffer against the looming challenges. The path forward remains nuanced, with the robust labor market serving as a strong foundation, but one that is still subject to the evolving landscape of global trade and domestic policy decisions. The intricate machinery of U.S. defense policy is currently navigating a complex and shifting landscape marked by significant internal reform efforts, abrupt international aid adjustments, and persistent domestic operational commitments. Recent developments, particularly in early July 2025, highlight a period of considerable flux for the Department of Defense, signaling potential long-term impacts on both national security posture and global alliances. At the forefront of internal transformation, the House Armed Services Committee is pushing for a substantial overhaul of defense acquisition processes. A new bill aptly titled Speeding Up Procurement aims to streamline and accelerate the Pentagon's notoriously cumbersome purchasing mechanisms. This legislative initiative, reported on July 3, 2025 by Inside Government Contracts, underscores a critical need to enhance agility and efficiency in acquiring cutting-edge technology and vital resources. Proponents argue that reforming defense acquisition is paramount to maintaining a technological edge over adversaries and ensuring that U.S. forces are equipped with the most advanced tools without undue delays or cost overruns. The push for faster procurement reflects a broader recognition that traditional bureaucratic hurdles often impede the rapid integration of innovation, a disadvantage in an era of accelerating technological competition. However, even as efforts are made to optimize internal operations, a dramatic shift in foreign policy has sent ripples across Washington and beyond. In a surprising move, the Pentagon announced a freeze on key defense aid to Ukraine, a decision that reportedly caught allies of former President Trump off guard, as detailed by Politico on July 3, 2025. This development, also confirmed by the National Interest on the same day, signifies a significant re-evaluation of U.S. support for Kyiv. The abrupt cessation of critical military assistance raises immediate questions about Ukraine's ability to sustain its defense efforts and the broader implications for European security. Analysts are quickly scrutinizing the motivations behind this decision, whether it stems from evolving strategic priorities, domestic political pressures, or a reassessment of the conflict's trajectory. The unexpected nature of the freeze suggests a potential divergence in policy direction that could reshape geopolitical alignments and challenge existing alliances. Amidst these high-profile policy shifts, the Department of Defense continues to uphold its ongoing domestic responsibilities. As of July 2, 2025, the DoD remains actively engaged in supporting operations at the U.S. southern border. While less dramatic than international aid adjustments or legislative reforms, this consistent commitment highlights the diverse array of missions the Pentagon manages. DoD support to the border typically involves logistical assistance, surveillance, and personnel deployment to aid customs and border protection, reflecting a sustained focus on national security challenges within the homeland. The confluence of these events, ambitious internal reform, a pivotal foreign policy pivot, and steadfast domestic operations, paints a picture of a defense establishment grappling with multifaceted demands. The drive to modernize acquisition processes aims to make the DoD more responsive and technologically advanced, yet the simultaneous unexpected withdrawal of support to a key international partner could complicate strategic planning and erode trust. The coming months will likely reveal the full impact of these decisions as the Speeding Up Procurement bill moves through legislative channels. Ukraine adjusts to a new reality of reduced U.S. aid, and the DoD continues its complex mission, set all against a backdrop of evolving global security imperatives. The global diplomatic landscape, ever a complex tapestry of national interests and shifting alliances, continues to be a focal point of intense scrutiny, particularly concerning the unconventional foreign policy approach often associated with former President Donald Trump. A recent flurry of reports from diverse international media outlets published around July 3, 2025, offers a stark illustration of the divergent interpretations and ongoing debates surrounding his unique brand of statecraft. These analyses, while varied in their conclusions, collectively underscore the profound impact of his policies and the persistent effort to define their legacy. On one end of the spectrum, some commentators posit that Trump's diplomatic strategies have indeed yielded tangible successes. Fox Business, for instance, featured analyst Tammy Bruce on July 3, 2025, asserting that Trump's approach to diplomacy has worked in a number of areas. This perspective typically highlights instances where traditional diplomatic norms were circumvented in favor of direct negotiation, leading to agreements or shifts in geopolitical dynamics that supporters deem beneficial. Such analyses often emphasize a perceived strength and willingness to challenge established paradigms, attributing positive outcomes to this assertive posture. However, this positive assessment stands in stark contrast to more cautious, if not outright critical, viewpoints emanating from other corners of the globe. The South China Morning Post also on July 3, 2025 carried a grave warning from a veteran Chinese diplomat who cautioned that Trump's policies risk shared destruction. This stark pronouncement reflects deep concerns within Beijing regarding the confrontational stance on trade technology and geopolitical influence, suggesting that such policies could destabilize international relations to a perilous degree for all parties involved. The Chinese perspective often emphasizes the need for multilateralism and cooperation, viewing unilateral actions as inherently destabilizing. Adding another layer of complexity to the discourse, European media offers a re-evaluation of the very nature of Trump's foreign policy. Le Monde.fr, in an article published on July 3, 2025, provocatively argued that Trump's diplomacy, hastily and wrongly labeled as isolationist, is interventionist. This analysis challenges the common characterization of Trump's approach as a retreat from global engagement, suggesting instead that his actions, while perhaps not conforming to traditional interventionist models, nonetheless actively sought to reshape international dynamics through economic pressure, direct negotiation, and a reordering of alliances. This perspective implies a more active, albeit unconventional, engagement rather than a withdrawal. Meanwhile, a more granular regional assessment from the Middle East Institute dated July 2, 2025 describes Trump's Middle East policy as having arrived at a temporary and fragile limbo. This view suggests that while certain initiatives such as the Abraham Accords mark significant diplomatic breakthroughs, the broader regional strategy left many core conflicts unresolved or in a state of precarious stability. The limbo implies an ongoing uncertainty and vulnerability to future shifts, highlighting that even perceived successes might be built on tenuous foundations without sustained and comprehensive diplomatic efforts. The profound divergence in these analyses, from successful and interventionist to dangerously destructive and precariously balanced, underscores the multifaceted and often contradictory nature of assessing international relations. These differing interpretations are not merely academic, they reflect varying national interests, ideological lenses, and the tangible impacts of policies on different regions and actors. The absence of a unified global consensus on the effectiveness or consequences of Trump-era diplomacy suggests that its legacy remains fiercely debated and far from settled. As the world navigates persistent geopolitical tensions and evolving power dynamics, the ongoing re-evaluation of past diplomatic strategies will undoubtedly continue to inform future approaches, shaping the very fabric of international relations for years to come.